So welcome back to our next tutorial. This is going to go over functions and other topics that are related to functions. So our first one we're going to go over is named functions. A named function is also known as a function declaration. To form a named function, you will need the function keyword, a function name, a list of parameters in parentheses, and a pair of curly brackets. So, for example, if I wanted to create a function that adds two numbers together, I could do function add a and b as my parameters, and then we will return a plus b. And then below we will call it, and let's say I wanted to add 1 plus 2. We will run this, and we get 3. So the next type of function we're going to go over is a function expression. These are similar to named functions, but it doesn't start with the keyword function. These are used to define a function as a part of a larger expression and typically uses a variable or variables. So, for example, if we wanted to convert our name function to a function expression, we could do var, we'll call it an add variable since we're adding them, is equal to function add with our parameters a and b, and then we are still returning a plus b. Then we can go down here and we can call our add variable, do 1 and 2, and then run it. And we will still get 3. The last type of function we're going to go over is the arrow functions. So arrow functions are used as a short syntax to write functions. It defines a parameter in a set of parentheses, followed by what is called a fat arrow, and then a pair of curly brackets. The arrow function does not require the function keyword, the return keyword, or the curly brackets in order to run. So if we want to continue on with converting our add function, we would do var, we'll call it add arrow since we're doing arrows now, is equal to the parameters a and b, and then arrow a plus b, so that it adds the two numbers together. Then we will call it down here, 1, 2, and then we'll run it, and it returns 3. All right, so to sort of start our other topics, we're going to start with optional arguments. So these can be declared using the logical OR operator or by using an assignment operator. These are typically used to assign a value to a variable if they are undefined when called. So let's start with a logical OR operator. So let's call this, let's say, function logical OR, and we will give it the parameters of a and b, and then our curly brackets. And we'll just say b is equal to b or 0. And then we will have it print. Let's have it say, let's show what a equals, and then add the variable a, plus, let's show what the variable b then equals. And we'll put that on a new line just for visual. And then we will call our logical OR. So if we give it two numbers and we run it, it'll show that a is equal to 3, which is in the first parameter, and that b is equal to 4 because it's in the second parameter. However, if I just run our logical OR on just the number, we'll say 2, and we run it, a will be equal to 2 because it's in that first parameter, and b will be equal to 0 because there was nothing in the b position. So it goes back into the function, and then it shows that b will then be equal to 0 if there's nothing there. Another way to do this is to do the assignment operator. So for example, we can do function assign operator, and we will give it the parameters of a, and then we'll set b to 0 if there is nothing in the b position. And then we will just copy this from up here to show what each variable is showing, or to show what each variable has saved within it. And then we will copy that, and we will change it to the assign operator. And let's just change the numbers just to make it clear. So we'll say 2 and 5, and we will run it. So here you can see that A was assigned 2 and B was assigned 5. And if we copy this again and we just put in the number 2, it should print out that A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 0. Our next topic is rest parameters. So these allow us to represent an unlimited number of arguments as an array. They enable a function to be called with any number of arguments no matter how it was initially defined. So, for example, we'll run a no rest parameter. So function no rest, just to make it clear, parameters a and b, and then I want to return a times b. Now if we call this and we say no rest 1, 2, we'll get 2. However, if I run no rest 1, 2, 3, I will still receive 2 because it is taking the first 2 parameters within this call. Now, if I use a rest parameter, I can call a function. We'll call it rest function. And then we'll do ... input. We can create a variable called let multiply and set it equal to 1, because if you multiply by 0, it equals 0. And then we will do a for loop, and we will say let I of input, and then we'll do multiply times equal to 1. And this is supposed to be I. This way it takes the number it already had and then it multiplies it by the next number that's listed. And then once we're done with that, then we will return the variable multiply. Then out here, we can call our rest function, and then we can multiply 1 by 2, just as we did earlier with the no rest, and we will get 2. And then we can run the rest function 1 times 2 times 3, and we will get 6. Next, we will go over scope. So scope defines the visibility of variables, functions, and objects in different parts of your code. In JavaScript, there is a local and a global scope. In local scope, the variables are defined within the function, while global scope variables are defined outside of the function. So to kind of show you a global scope first, we'll say var my name is equal to Lauren. And then we will print my name. And that'll print Lauren. Then we can create a function called display name, and then have it print the same information. And then call it down here. So the variable my name is global because it can be used either within a function or outside the function and still be usable. So for local scope, if we created, let's say, function display other name, and we create a variable other name and have it set to Luna, we can then do a console.log and we'll have it print the other name. However, if I were to go down here and and copy this console.log other name, it'll throw an error because the variable is local to the function, so it cannot be used outside of the function. So the last topic we're going to go over is nested functions. A nested function is a function that is created inside of another function. Nested functions can access any arguments and variables that were declared in the function that it is nested in. So, for example, we can create, we'll say first name equal to Lauren, and then we'll have a let last name equal Capron. And then we will create a function called nested function. And I want it to take the parameters of my first name and last name. And then within that function, we'll create another function called create full name. And this function will then return my first name plus a space, and then add my last name to it. And this way, you can go then outside of that second function and call a console.log and say my name is, let a space in there, plus create full name. So then you're calling that second function. And then we'll go outside both of those functions and we will call the nested function. And we will use the variables first name, and last name. And we will run. And here you'll see that it printed my name is Lauren Capron.